Oh, hey, I just,
Oh, yes.
I don't know what it,
You interrupted our meetings.
That was good.
What time were you? I didn't want one.
You think it interrupted you?
What were we?
You guys.
start?
I don't know how to hold.
Okay.
No,
Ladies and gentlemen, if I can have your attention just for a moment for interrupting your work. Sorry about that. This is kind of important. It's the Fox broadcast crew. And we have a new addition this year, which will make us even a little bit more exciting. I'm Chris Myers, CM, your MC, just to help you through this. You'll be able to ask questions if you want afterwards about the broadcast, the analysts, et cetera, in just a moment. A real quick introduction here. Clint Bowyer, Kevin Harvick, Mike Joy, and Chuck McDonald, our producer, Josh Sims, Jamie Little, Regan Smith, Larry McReynolds, familiar to many of you over the years. In fact, I think Mike and Larry, you and I, three of the originals from the very first year, right, of Fox, NASCAR with Fox, the 2001 Daytona 500. So this is, 21 now, because we had that rotation early, 21 Daytona 500s. And Kevin Harvick is our new addition for this year, and the most recent guy to drive the next-gen car. So he's the next-gen announcer. And Kevin, it's welcome to Fox. I know you did the Clash, you did the Duel. You'll be dancing on Sunday. Looking forward to the Great American Race, one that you've won. And you've done everything there has been to do in the car, including being a great Ironman. And through our years, actually, at Fox, when he first got into the car and Cup and Race, we've been with him all along the way. So we welcome you. We're glad to have you. You prepared so much as a driver. Tell us how your preparation is going for the Daytona 500 as a broadcaster and with this group.
Yeah, well, I think that the biggest thing, I wasn't prepared for the amount of meetings that I get to sit in, so that's been fun.
Debriefs, we call them.
Well, we have debriefs, we have pre-briefs, we have post, we have everything.
As long as you're not in your briefs, okay.
I think, well, that happens too every once in a while, but
on Zoom only.
Yeah,
only on Zoom.
Usually in Zoom. But I think it's for me it's been fun because I know most everybody, and I think going through the process of learning, everybody you see has been very helpful to everything that I've needed to get going. Last night was completely overwhelming for me. Luckily, I've got pros all around me that have done this before, and they were able to keep the train on the tracks. But it's fun to watch it from a different perspective and be able to look around and not be in that competition mindset. Bring some insight into the new car and just the strategies and things that go with that, and be a part of a different team. And that's really how I've approached it, is how can I just fit into what they do and just try to play my role and have fun with it. So we're having fun, and so far so good. We haven't knocked anything down or broken anything, and everything's gone okay. Yeah,
Kevin, we always appreciated your candor when you were a driver, even on the radio and with your crew sometimes. How will you bring that to the booth? And is that something you'll channel, you'll figure out as we go along the way, especially starting with the most important race?
Well, I'm not going to make fun of Mike, but I will make fun of Clint.
That's easy.
Artie's not here, but he's
okay with that.
Artie's an easy target too. Just he brings it upon himself. But one of the best parts for me is I don't have to get to know him. Obviously, I've been around Mike a lot, and we'll get to know each other, but not as well as we will 6 months from now. But this guy, I've known him since 2004, and when he came in and did everything with RCR and everything that we've been through over the years as teammates. But the fun part for me has just been, we don't have to compete for anything anymore. Now we're telling a story and having a good time with the broadcast, and not having to worry about how fast our cars are going, and we're just trying to do a good job at what we do and communicating. And so that really helps get past a lot of hurdles when you don't have to understand somebody that you're talking about what you love to do.
Yeah, and so Clint, natural transition and comfortable for you, but you've had different analysts, since Jeff Gordon up in the booth with you and Mike, and we'll get Mike's thoughts in a moment for his time. But you two have a unique working relationship already. Do you feel like you have to guide him along? You're going to freelance it with this? What do we expect from you two in your broadcast together?
Well, at the end of the day, just like he spoke of, I mean, I do have a couple years of experience, so it's important
for me to help, my longest teammate that I had in Kevin. As he spoke, he was my first person that I met in NASCAR. So it's important for me, for him to have an easy transition and have fun. I think that's my role in all this. We all know that. I got to make sure that he sometimes doesn't have the most fun when he was in that race car.
Yes, I remember.
I mean, he'd win the damn race and get out, and you're like, did he enjoy himself right there? So it's my job to make sure that he's having fun up there, and I knew it would be good. Just like when I was hired to be alongside Jeff Gordon. A lot of people didn't know that. They only saw us fighting on the racetrack, much like we did. And when I knew outside of the racetrack, Jeff and I hit it off good. We always had fun together, and I knew that would be good banter back and forth. The last couple of years, it's been a challenge. It is fun to do that. Mike and I welcomed so many guests in and had a blast doing it, but it comes with its own challenges, right? To be in sync with somebody week in and week out and perfect your trade, that's what Kevin and I will quickly get, and I know that we can handle that and have a lot of fun doing that and deliver the right message.
Yeah, to have a regular team, and Kevin, all your time when you did the Xfinity races and guested in the booth along with drivers, certainly a lot of experience. Speaking of experience, Mike, 45th Daytona 500 for you, whether it's radio or TV, and obviously from day one since we've had it with Fox. I'm sure we could go on, but just is there a Daytona 500 memory or two that jumps out at you before I ask you about the Sunday race?
Well, easily 76. I was standing behind Leonard Wood. I had walked down to the Petty Pit, and it was just full of people, crushed with people. And I walked up to the Wood brothers, and it was just the crew. So I was standing right behind Leonard Wood, and we could hear Ken Squire's voice over the PA as they crashed coming off turn number 4. We couldn't see the cars, but we knew they were crashing. And when David Pearson had clutched the car, kept it running, put it in first gear, rumbled across the line, and everybody in that pit just started running to victory lane. I had no business being there, but I ran right along with them. And it was a wonderful moment. In 79, I was high atop a scaffold, a 6-story scaffold in turn 2. And I'm watching, like all of America, as Ken on CBS and Gary Gerald in turn 3 for MRN called the crash between Donnie and Cale. And on radio, Jack Arute goes, "We'll have a new leader. They're in turn 2 in front of Mike." And I gotta go, "What?" And you can hear it on the tape. You can hear the excitement in my voice. "It's Richard Petty." I was as surprised as anybody. And so that was great. But I think one of the greatest Daytona 500 finishes was your win, 2007. And the fact that you won.
I disagree with that.
And Clint came across the line on his roof.
My version sucked, Mike.
Some things just perpetuate themselves.
Every time we walk into the meeting or into the booth on the weekend, that's kind of how it is. Clint comes in on fire.
And we kind of leave. We kind of leave the same way. But the cool thing is we have a history together. I got to call Kevin's first win in the Cup Series among quite a few others, and so it's really cool. I think to put this team together because, Chris, as you said. And as Clint said, the last couple of years has been a revolving door, and you know what that does? You stay in there long enough, and it makes you dizzy. And we had Tony Stewart, who was a great analyst and who can come to our booth anytime. And then we had a couple of people who'd show up with their hard card and a smile, and it was very difficult for Clint and I to establish a rhythm with any of these other 1 or 2 or part-time analysts. And now I feel a whole new energy out in that TV compound where people are coming up with ideas on how to make the telecast better. We have a new telestrator to play with. We have a lot of toys, but just everybody is moving and pushing forward. And I can lay a lot of that right at the feet of this fellow here joining us and asking those questions. How do we make it better? How do we tell this story better? How do we get the detail better?
Yep. Well, along with the great pictures and audio, and it's been a plan for a while to get Kevin into this seat to join this group, and we're glad we're finally pulling it off. Larry McReynolds, and we mentioned from day one, I know busy with the duels and from Charlotte and back down here. What do you see the biggest challenge for crew chiefs? I know weather's going to be an issue possibly for crew chiefs and the race on Sunday.
Yeah, I think we started seeing it in the dual races last night. I never thought, coming down here for 18 years as a crew chief for the Daytona 500, I never thought I would see the things that's going on right now with race teams and with engineers and the way crew chiefs are calling a race. to know that you've got to make one pit stop in a dual race and yet you're conserving fuel from lap one, it's really been hard for me to wrap my arms around, but that's where our sport's at. You know, I go back to my 18 years as a crew chief. I'm not going to say it was easy to call a race, but a lot easier than what it is to call now. And it's one thing I enjoy about being able to do a one-off race like I'm doing this weekend with Jordan Anderson in the Xfinity Series. You know, I've told people a lot, I think the days of me being a crew chief, I think that ship has sailed, being gone for 24 years. But with what I've learned and what I've watched and what I've tried to engage in the last 23 years, I feel like I could go back on the pit box and call a race better than my days as a crew chief because of what I've learned over the last few years. But it's just the competition. You know, you think about the next-gen car, including Kevin and Kurt Busch, who's now retired, the last 2 years, we've had 25 different winners to win in the next-gen car. So the competition and a lot of the ways that you try to outwit the competition is by calls that you're making on pit road. It makes my head spin sometime, but it's something I really enjoy.
Well, and we appreciate your insight as a crew chief and as a broadcaster still. Jamie Little, 25th year, right, in motorsports? Wow, that's, you only look like you're 24, I'll tell you that right. I don't know how you're doing
That's it? That's all you're going to give me?
That's it for now. Hey, storylines that you always dig up a few before the race without giving anything away for the broadcast. What's looking like it's a couple of the top stories you'll be looking for, either in the Daytona 500 or if you want to go a little bit beyond during the season?
Well, the Great American Race, as you guys all know and hear, I mean, the storylines are aplenty. We saw and heard a lot of those last night. Jimmy Johnson racing his way in. But the storylines that I always like to look at are who are the guys who have tried over and over and over again who've never been able to get this trophy right here. That's Kyle Busch, the Kyle Larsons, Martin Truex Jr. Can Ryan Blaney, our defending series champion, finally get it done? He's had a couple of runner-up finishes. I like those stories. And I also like the one-off stories, the guys who come in here like the Austin Cindricks and Michael McDowells that come out and win this race. And when I get to stand out there on the start-finish line and interview them, I mean, you guys all know, you've all been in victory lane. There's nothing like that emotion. That's what keeps me coming back and doing this job, staying in the pits, because I love being in the middle of that action and those emotions that are so raw. It's why we're all here. It's why I've been here for 25 years covering motorsports, because there's just nothing else like it.
And hopefully 25 more. Regan's, or a few more. Regan Smith, former driver as a pit reporter, kind of a cool thing for our broadcast group. And I know you've been doing this a few years now, Regan, but what perspective or advantage does that give you, having come from the car, not up to the booth necessarily, like Clint and Kevin, but to be doing what Josh and Jamie are doing as a pit reporter?
Well, I think a big part of it's the relationships with the garage and having known so many people for so many years. You know, I spent a number of years in the garage as a driver and even years trying to be a driver and trying to get those opportunities. And you build those relationships and that trust from the crew chiefs or the engineers, to where if they tell you something, that you're going to use it at the right times and use it, not burn them on something. And it allows me to get some answers that typically I don't know that I would always be able to get. And you know, it's been a lot of fun for me. The thing I was kind of the most hesitant about was, well, if I'm not driving, then what does this look like? Well, now, instead of going into one hauler each weekend and talking to one group of guys, I get to go into every hauler and talk to every single guy and see what they're thinking and see what they believe the event's going to look like and what the storylines are going to be and what we need to really focus on. So it's been very enjoyable, and it gives me a little bit different perspective coming out of the driver's seat in terms of the flow of the race and what's going to approach us next.
And Josh Sims, rookie stripe last year at the Daytona 500, but you see him on Race Hub, a pit reporter. Second year here, Josh. What wowed you the first year that you're more comfortable with this Daytona?
Yeah, the whole thing was absolutely incredible, getting to do the Daytona 500, a race, you grow up watching and know the magnitude of it. But I think the biggest thing for me is knowing, don't forget the story. I think Regan and Jamie do such a great job of weaving in storytelling while you're getting pit reports out of them. And the biggest thing, going through my head is, all right, what's wrong and how do I get that across? Don't forget the why. I think that's so important to any viewer out there watching to know, in addition to what's going on, why this matters. That's something that brings in viewers. That's something that gets new fans. And always remember that while you're telling people what's going on, give them a reason to care about someone. Give them a reason to hate somebody. It's all important when we're doing this broadcast. And I think this whole broadcast team does a great job of storytelling in addition to broadcasting. And I think that's one of the biggest things I picked up on being around all these people around me.
Great to have you again. And Chuck McDonald is our producer, so he's going to have to pull all this together as he did last year in his first year. But actually, was one of the originals. You were in the graphics truck, right? Some 20, however years ago. And then he's produced college football booths, NFL, and now he has the unique challenge with Kevin Harvick and Clint and Mike. So describe for everybody, Chuck, your philosophy. You have one in general, and then you have one probably for this group and for NASCAR.
No, I think the main thing that Fox does is we try not to produce the show before we do it. We're very good at covering the event as it happens. And then with this group, with race, there's unlike football or other things where there's one ball, there's a bunch of stories going on, and just figuring out the ones that are the most compelling and the ones that have to make air. And the chemistry of this team makes it a lot easier for me.
All right. I have a few more. If anybody has any questions, yes, you just identify yourself if you could when you ask a question. Go ahead. You go first, and then I'll get to you. Is that okay? Just so we know who we are. We have a microphone so that you can be heard. Thank you.
Jacob Seelman, Raceface Digital. Mike referenced it, and Kevin, you actually did during the dual broadcast last night, but I'm curious the dynamic for you two, and maybe even Larry as well, going back to that first win, because I think back to that broadcast. It's one of the first ones that I vividly remember, and Mike saying, Gordon got loose, it's Harvick. What is that like to bring it full circle all these years later and have now this chemistry after that moment?
Well, it's interesting because of the fact that they were obviously in the booth, and I've obviously heard that a number of times, and it's a special moment in my career. But the one thing that I can tell you from the beginning of my career, we were around all these guys and gals because of the fact that there was a lot of engagement with Fox coming into the sport and wanting to be a part of the drivers and the teams and the sport and understand it and entertain, and so we were around each other a lot. The thing that I can tell you about Mike and Larry, it's Larry's on top of everything that goes on. Mike is in charge of us. I wanted to get him a referee shirt to start the year, but working with Mike and Adam Alexander, these guys are pros. And when I've learned that when something goes wrong, I just stop, be quiet. I look at Mike, and so my point is there's a lot of experience. I won't call us all old because we are, but I won't say. I guess I did say it, but I guess that's just a fact. That's just the way that goes.
Can't escape it.
But
Can't run from it.
It's. Yeah, he reminds us that he's younger than most, but
and immature. As well.
Immature, yeah, that's true. Younger and immature. But I think just having that tie and that bond of all the group that have been around the sport for so long makes it fun because we're all fans. We all love the sport, and you can hear that passion in that call, and that passion is still there when I listen to both of them talk about what they do today.
If Larry or Mike wanted to comment, does that answer your question, sir? Okay, we'll go to next. Go ahead, sir.
Hey, this is Chris Collin with WNDB. I also had a question for Kevin. So back in August here, for your last race at Daytona, I asked you if there are any moments that stood out over your career racing here, and you talked about the feeling of coming through the tunnel to come under the track as something that got to you every time. And I was wondering now, you've come through the tunnel again this weekend, but in a very different context with a very different set of things ahead of you. So I was wondering if you could speak, is that feeling any different now that things are so different for you?
It's very different. For me, it's different in the fact that I don't have to worry about how fast my car is going to go. And I watched those videos last night of those guys hitting things, and I'm really excited that I don't have to, experience how that feels today. And once we saw that everybody was okay last night, we really want people to understand how physical this is. And I want, whether it's sliding from the top of the banking and slamming down on the apron or hitting the wall like Ryan Blaney did last night, that's intense, and that hurts. And there are moments like that happen throughout the night that TV makes look easy, and those are the things that we want to dive in and do. But driving in that tunnel, for me, I don't have to worry about all those things inside the car. We can relay and tell you what it felt like, or what it looked like, or what he's experiencing from the driver's standpoint. But being able to look around and enjoy the sights and the sounds and the smells and all the views of everything, and seeing that green flag for the Daytona 500 is something I'm really looking forward to, because now there is a sense of fun that goes along with what I'm doing. And I've learned that everybody here wants to have a great time, and we eat a lot. So
that's part of it.
I've learned that I better have a better exercise program quickly. But it's, just everything is it's very enjoyable, and it's not that I didn't enjoy what I did, but I just didn't realize how intense it was doing the things that we did on a weekly basis.
Now we go in the tunnel and it's some security driver at breakneck speed, and we're worried about other things, like trying to find the media center on time.
That's right.
Okay, I think we have another question. Go ahead, sir.
Terry Sabiston with WNDB, the flagship station for the Motor Racing Network, also a veteran that was qualified to work on F-16s. How was that flight today? Can you tell us what the Thunderbirds did there, and the fun you had there? You're getting out of a race car, but jumping into a F-16 is pretty comparable, and how's it compare?
Well, it's the most physically intense thing I've ever done in my life, and we took off at the end of the runway and went straight up in the air, and I'm like, holy crap, what have I got myself into? I didn't pass out. I didn't throw up. It was a great experience, and it's something that I've never done before because of the competitive side. I didn't know if I was going to come out of that thing walking sideways, like my compadre here said he was walking sideways when he got out of his. So I have never actually got in one of the planes, and this was the first opportunity that I could miss. I guess I could miss work. Is that okay?
You look pretty disheveled when you walk.
I was going to say, let me add a little context to this. When he got to the TV compound
exhausted, to be honest,
a little bit
you.
ago, we've all seen Jamie and Regan interview him after a race. A little bit of helmet head, right? The old hair sticking up. A couple of them are. And today, buddy, it was straight up like, bud, you need to go to the wardrobe department and get something done with your hair, because it was bad.
It was intense.
It was
but
really bad.
I enjoyed it. That was my one and done. So check that off.
He looked like he was going very fast.
There you go. That's the kind of analysis Clint will give you, I'm telling you. We have another go ahead, question back here.
Yeah, Justin Schuler, Kicking the Tires. I guess this question kind of may have some value for both new fans and even the lifelong fans, and it may be very basic, but I kind of wanted to have this open to anybody's perspective. They say that the Daytona 500 is the Super Bowl of NASCAR, and some drivers will say they will trade anything to take that trophy home and win this race and put this race on their resume. In your guys' opinion, why?
Anybody want to?
Since 1959, that's the way this sport has been run. Prior to that, the Southern 500 was the sport's biggest race. In 59, Daytona opened. In 60, Atlanta and Charlotte opened. But once Bill France built this speedway, this became the one crown jewel of NASCAR. And the way NASCAR has been run ever since, it's always been, this is the tentpole event. That's never changed.
Kevin, since you won one, how about that? No, sorry, Clint. So how about maybe you could describe how that changed your life? I mean, we hear it so often. Hey, there's nothing like it. Now I'm a Daytona 500 champion, whatever. But maybe go into a little more detail based on his question.
Well, it's very unique, right? Because every team is the most prepared that they're going to be all year this week. They have their 3 months to work on the car. It's the best it's going to look. The hauler's going to look the best it's going to look. You've got all this hype and all this buildup around the first race of the year. You've got media day. You've got qualifying races. You have qualifying races, and everything that leads up into the 500. And it's just when you bring in the history and the mystique and everything that was built around Daytona International Speedway, making it our marquee event of the year. There's no way you can build any more hype because you've had the whole off season, and there's no way you can really be more prepared with the amount of time that you have. So I remember winning the race, and the first thing that Dale Jarrett told me, he said, well, you're going to understand why this is the biggest race in the sport and what that means. And when you look at that trophy and you look at the names on it and you realize, many of them are the who's who of NASCAR racing and understand the history of the names on that trophy that you're associated with, it makes you understand that you truly are a part of one of the more historic events of Daytona history. And so every year that happens, and somebody new puts their name on that trophy. And if you're in NASCAR racing, you understand what that trophy means, to take home, and the amount of time and effort that everybody puts into preparing those cars to try to do that. So it's just it's a different vibe than the rest of the year. Points do matter. Clint will tell you they don't. He's just racing for the trophy, but.
Here I am. I don't have one.
But it's just different. It's different than any other week.
I mean, it's that one moment, one race where you can change a career. I think we had a question. If we can get a mic over here. Go there, and then we'll go to you, sir. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Steve Schweitzer with the Lasco Press. Mike referenced 76 and 79 as two events that really stood out in his broadcast career. Richard Petty was in here earlier in the week, and he mentioned both races, but he said the one that bothered him the most was the one he lost to Pearson, and that he remembers so many more details from that race in 76 than the one he won in 79. For Kurt and Kevin, I don't want to talk about race memories. I want to talk about broadcast memories. Can you, and I know, Kevin, you haven't been, this is your debut in the booth full time, but you've done call some races as a color analyst before. From your days in the booth, what single experience or moment or event stood out most, not from your racing career, but from your broadcast career?
Well, I think that the thing probably for me that sticks out the most was actually here, and it was when Kyle Busch broke his leg. We were in the booth that particular day because you were pretty new in the booth and not really understanding a lot of things that happen in those types of moments, and so not knowing if the driver's okay or what the situation is, and knowing how hard the impact was from the driver's standpoint, and so that was one moment for me that stuck out a lot more than most because of the uncertainty about the driver and knowing the next day that you're going to get into the race car and do the exact same thing. So there's just those moments in time that was one for me that sticks in my mind to this day about the moment that Kyle Busch hit that inside wall and everything that proceeded to happen after that.
And we have, I think, time for one more from the group here. Go ahead.
Clint, I know you're getting spoiled because your team wins the Super Bowl every year now, but
Taylor's team.
What was the?
That's a good point.
What was the experience like this time, and especially with Gordon there? Were you able to rub it in his face in person?
Oh my gosh! Why, he just keeps showing up for beatings. Why would you do that? It's amazing. I mean, he just sets himself up year after year for disappointment. But to have him standing next to me when we actually beat him again, gosh, it felt good. What a game! What a relationship with him. It has been fun. I remember my first year in this very job was alongside him. Meant a lot to me. Right off the bat was our rivalry with the Super Bowl and to be able to beat him. But it kind of takes me right into. I wanted to answer your question too. The importance of this job takes a whole new meaning, and I think he's going to realize that really quick. As soon as that red light comes on Sunday, my life changed. My whole vision of this sport changed. My love for it didn't change, but the importance of my job did. It's one thing to be out on that racetrack as part of the crowd, right? When you have the job and you're tasked to deliver the message to people at home, to the sport that you love, it's very important to you. You want to do a good job. You want it to be lighthearted, but you want to take care of business. There's so many boxes to check, and he and I talked about it last night, even this morning. dang it, we could have done that a little bit better. We missed that. You know, you never hit on the good things. You never even think about those. No different you did on a car. Very competitive up there, just like it is on that race car. You have good days, you have bad days. You call good races, you don't. But it's the team, right? It's a team effort. When Jamie and Regan give a good call, or Larry gives us a tidbit, man, I saw this down there in the pit area, you know, you get in a slot, much like you do in that race car, and that comfort level, everything calms down. And it's just such an important, impactful thing to be able to call the Great American Race at Daytona 500. It is fun, but it's nerve-wracking as hell because it's so important to you.
More nervous, Clint, Kevin, more nervous going into this as a broadcaster first time, or when you were racing it for the first time?
And it's Busher.
Way more.
It's Busher, not Boucher.
Busher.
Okay, big boy, wait till you're going wide open and everything's
That was
happening
me.
everywhere. You
That
got
was-
him yelling in your ear, him telling you what to do.
That was me
Larry's
last night. I was
wave.
referencing myself.
Buddy, it just, you got to breathe, and you're going to make mistakes.
He thinks he said it. Yeah, it was
Well,
me.
it wouldn't surprise me if I did.
You
But
don't remember what you said. That's all right.
all hell breaks loose up there, just
would-
like the race car, doesn't it?
I would tell you that last night I was more spun out than anything I've ever done in a race car. When the beginning of the race started and everything went down and everything was happening, we had a couple of little things go wrong here and there, and the radio didn't work. And next thing I know, I'm looking at Mike. All right,
And while you're looking at me,
I'm just looking at you. I'm not
Chuck
talking.
and I are
because-
talking,
yeah.
figuring out where we're going next.
I just wait. I froze.
The wheels fell off.
So yes, I was way more nervous
Literally.
last night.
It's like herding cats.
The good thing is Clint's going to Dawsonville and going to the billiard room and blow the horn.
I hope so. Yeah, he's got to blow the horn.
I like ribbing people. Do you realize how many people that pissed off on Twitter? It was awesome to be able to do that. It created an hour and a half of banner with people on Twitter when I got done with that race.
it's not a-
Sometimes that's by design.
It's a siren. Not a siren.
It's a
Heavens
pool
forbid
room.
you call it a siren in Georgia. It's
Pool room, not a billiard room.
Well, thanks.
Oh my gosh!
A
It was
pool
so-
hall. Thanks for your time up here, and thank you all for sharing a few moments for your questions and for your coverage of NASCAR. Thank you very much. And
Thank you guys
good
for
luck.
being
Have a
here,
great
too.
season.
Great year, you guys.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here.
We're gonna get a quick picture.
Ooh. He wants to say sitting.
Sit. Yep.
And his phone went off in the middle of it. I remember that.
That's right.
By the way, that was that guy right there. That was awesome.
Yes, it was.
Broke the ice for me.
Here we go on 3. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. You know, it actually did help. It calmed me. I was surprised. I just wanted to say hey, folks. I was like,